Welcome back. Today we are going to be installing coilovers on my '06 Legacy GT. I'm going for more of a lower ride height and I want some better performance around the corners. As you can see right now, we're a couple inches of wheel gap. A little comparison before. So these are the Max Speeding Rods brand. I've never heard of this brand, but they are directly off Amazon. There's a few reviews on here, 4 out of 5 stars on Amazon, but only 5 reviews and no comments. So it'll be really interesting to see how well these are as far as ride quality and adjustment and whatnot. Really, I'm going for more of just a stiffer performance ride. That way I can go around the corners a little faster. I did opt for the adjustable. So the dampening is adjustable. It says there's 24 different settings for the dampening here on the top. So you can adjust essentially, you know, how hard or how soft you want your ride to be when you drive. As far as height, it did come with the spanner wrenches, so that's a nice add-in. You can adjust here. They're adjustable, so you can raise or lower the vehicle to the desired height. I don't want to go super low because I don't want to smack into everything on the road. I want to be able to still go over bumps, but I do want to go at least an inch or two lower than stock. So this will be nice because I'll have that adjustment anytime I want to go up or down.
Yep.
Not to state the obvious, but obviously the first thing you got to do is remove your wheel. So start with your 19 mm and we'll get this wheel off. You're gonna grab a 12 mm, you're gonna undo your brake line right here. And then you're gonna do over here, where your ABS is, you're gonna disconnect this. Basically anything that's attached to this strut, you're gonna undo. All right, so as you can see, I got the bracket off for the ABS. I like to run my bolts just back in by hand, just that way it's easy to keep track of your bolts and you're not misplacing things. The next step is to get these 2 bolts here, the top and bottom. These are what connects the spindle to the strut, and you'll want to make note of the position of the camber as well. And as you can see, there is already a line here and here, and you'll want to make note of that because when you put this back together, you want your camber matched up perfectly. Lower the car onto a jack and support this because when you take out these 2 bolts, there will be nothing to support your hub and brake assembly.
Okay, so we got the bolts loosened here. We're leaving the bottom one in for now because the next step is to undo these strut mount bolts here. And so you want to make sure that the strut's supported from below so this doesn't fall out. So anyway, with it still supported and 1 bolt in, we'll go ahead and loosen these guys.
And then for these 3 bolts, you're going to use a 12 deep socket. And the electric will make your life a lot easier.
Okay, so next step is to go ahead and lower the suspension there, and it should drop it down from above here. There we go, you can see it sinking. So now next we can go ahead and remove that lower bolt and then just remove the strut.
All right, I'm going to pull out this bolt and give it a little wiggle. And it should be free from the strut. There we go. And the whole assembly is just gonna hop on out here. Just make sure you don't snag any of your lines. And there she is. And if you could guess, just by looking at this, these are obviously the rears because they're much smaller. And then you do have a left and a right on the fronts, and they are marked right at the top here. You see the R there for the right side. Now we're on to reinstalling the new strut and coilover. They did supply new nuts, which is awesome. Just go on real easy. And you'll tighten these 3 first. That way the strut is held in here. All right, these are gonna go down to 15 foot-pounds. And I do have a little swivel on here. That way I can get to this back one. Make sure you get on there straight. You don't wanna strip out these nuts. Click.
Okay, and then now that we got the strut secured from the top, we go ahead and need to raise the suspension so the bolt holes align, and we'll just use a floor jack for that. So we'll just keep pumping it until things are lined up. Okay, now we have the bottom strut bolts back in. But on the Subaru, it's important to get this clocked properly because the top bolt here is actually a camber bolt. And I did take some pictures before I pulled it apart, and this little part here that's marked, this little notch, needed to be straight up. So that way it's back into the original position, so it should not throw a camber off unless we raise or lower this. And then if that's the case, you can adjust the camber on the top of the strut, so it'd be much easier to adjust it here rather than climbing under the car, pulling the tire off and adjusting it here.
All right, we're gonna go to 114 foot-pounds. And you're gonna wanna hold this side of the camber bolt so we don't change our position. Just like that. Now, one thing I did notice when we were trying to remount the brake line here, this tab here was too far out this way and did not line up. So we did take this tool here, got onto the end of it and bent it out towards me. And now it lines up perfectly for our bolt to go into. After you bend this tab out, you're gonna reinstall this 12 mm, and then you're gonna reinstall this 12 mm for your ABS. All right, and for our adjustment, I'm just gonna leave it how it came from the manufacturer for now, which is about 2 inches from the top of this lip here to the bottom of this lip here. And to set your height, you're gonna wanna take your spanner wrench, hit the bottom locking ring here, and just give it a nice tug so it's locked. And then the top one, you're gonna need both of these. You're gonna twist this one this way, and then hold the top one this way, just like this. And it's locked. All right, and then I'm just gonna throw the wheel on. We'll get the car lowered down just to see, you know, what height we're at here, make sure we're satisfied with that, and then just basically repeat the same process on the other side. All right, and as you can see, we already have a lot less gap here, even with the suspension unloaded. Just take a quick measurement here from the top of the fender to the rim. We're about 5 inches. And this side we're about sitting at 9 inches. So we're already 4 inches difference.
And just to give you an idea of the adjustability here, we got, I think, 3 or 4 negative degrees of camber, and we're gonna move it completely the other side just to show you the adjustability. So watch the wheel pop out. Pretty significant.
It's quite a bit. Go to 0.
And we'll set it at 0 for now.
So what's really cool about these is if you take off this little dust cover right here, these will come on the softest setting, but they have 24 settings for dampening. From the factory, they're set on the softest setting. Twist it clockwise, and that will reinforce your dampening and make it a harder ride. Twist it counterclockwise, and you will have a softer ride. So we got her back down on the ground, and here's what it looks like with the 2 inches setting on the coilover. Just a smidge of wheel gap, which I think is perfect. I like to have at least a little bit just to get my fingers in here, because you don't want the tire rubbing on the fender. But as far as drivability, we'll just have to test that out when we're finished. But as of right now, we got the fronts done, and then tomorrow we're going to work on the rears. Now for the rear, first thing you're going to want to do is get back here in the trunk. Open your trunk, obviously, and then we have the carpet liner here. You're going to want to pull all of the tabs out, and that way you have access behind this carpet. Way down in there, there's 2 14 mm bolts that hold in your strut assembly, and you'll want to loosen those.
All right, the next step is take the rear wheel off. Go.
All right, so after you get the wheel off, you're gonna grab a 19 mm, and you're gonna hit it with some WD. Usually it's rusty down here. Let it soak for a while, and then you're gonna grab a real narrow breaker bar, and you're gonna get on here and give it as much force as you can. There we go.
Okay, when pushing this bottom bolt out, it's real important to load up the shock because there's a lot of tension on it. So we got a stand here, pipe stand, and we're pushing up against the bottom of the shock. So we'll push the bolt out and then lower the stand and then relieve all the tension on the spring. There it goes. Okay, now we can jack this down. The other way. Yeah, see, there's still quite a bit of tension on that spring, so if you didn't do this, you could seriously get hurt.
And there it is.
There you go. Now we can slide the jack out. Probably. Let's slide it out. You gotta hold it. Yep. Okay. And then just pull it. And there you go. It's out. Okay, when putting the new one in, we're not working in quite reverse order because this time we're supporting it from the top first. So I didn't record this because it took 2 people, but I had one person hold it in place here, while the other person went back here and put the nuts on. So anyway, that'll keep it in position there, and then we can load up the suspension again so the shock matches up with the suspension hole, and we can put the bolt in.
Okay, and for the top strut bolts, you're going to do 22 foot-pounds and tighten the bolt down. There we go.
Okay, now that we have it bolted in from the top, all we're doing is raising, lowering the suspension using this pipe jack stand here, just so we can get those bolt holes aligned. Once we're aligned, we'll go ahead and put that all the way through, and then this bolt here gets torqued down to 59 pound-feet. Okay, now we're just torquing up this bottom strut bolt here to 59 pound-feet.
And there we go.
There we go. All right, now that we have the strut adjusted to 2 inches, which is what we went with in the front, we'll go ahead and lock everything down using these spanner wrenches. All right, this is with the suspension unloaded. You can see the difference here. This is the one with the new strut. You got about a fist worth of space there. And then on the stock side, come over here and about a fist and a half or so.
Here's how it turned out after we installed the coilovers. Ride height in the front looks good, ride height in the back looks good. Might have to do a little adjustment on the camber on the back. Right now I have the ride on the softest setting, so let's take it out for a spin and see how she does. First impressions I have are the ride feels a little softer than factory. It's definitely a little more bouncy, but not too bad. It's definitely daily drivable like this. I may firm up the suspension a few turns. See how it does around some of these corners. Definitely gives you a more inspiring feeling. Let's see how it does around this one. Oh yeah. I'd say for 350 bucks, Amazon coilovers, I mean, this is going to be hard to beat. My honest opinion is I'd probably give it maybe 4 out of 5 stars for the price and installation and quality. I may do an update video maybe like 6 months down the road just to see, you know, how they've held up. But so far, I'm pretty impressed. Thanks for watching.